What's going on, everybody? My name is Ben and welcome back to the bench for another episode of our 1/2500 scale U.S.S. Shenzhou. Today we're going to go ahead and push on with the kit itself. I want to try to get the rest of the lighting finished off and get everything closed up. So that's our plan. Last time we went ahead and worked mostly on the lower portion of the Shenzhou. We've got the LEDs all installed for the nacelles, as well as a little bit here on the secondary hull and impulse engines and deflector dish. So those are all coming right along. We will have to go ahead though and come back and kind of clean up some of these seams, but I think the lower portion is good for right now. We need to go ahead and focus on the upper saucer. Now this is actually going to be a little bit tougher because I want to go ahead and string in some LEDs in there to go ahead and light up the inside. And for that, I selected a couple of things. I grabbed some LED light strips, and I also grabbed some 3mm LEDs. Both of these are cool white, so they should match everything else. Now, my goal here is to actually grab this LED light strip and go ahead and just kind of salvage from it what I want. As you can see, it comes attached with a battery pack. I'm not sure exactly how long this is. I'm thinking like 6 feet or so, but this is going to work really, really well because we can go ahead and cut this down to size and just go ahead and attach it on the underside of the upper portion of the saucer. That will go ahead and make our jobs a lot easier. At least that's what I'm hoping. We also have a battery pack, like I said, built into this, but this is actually 4.5 volt battery pack. So I don't know if I'm going to use this. I might actually just desolder right off the LED strip and add my own, but I need to test it out and make sure it actually works. So that's kind of the first thing on the agenda. But this is actually a really nice looking battery pack. Even if we don't use it here, we can use it at another place. And this lighting strip right here, we can just kind of maybe select 3, maybe 4 LEDs that are already pre-soldered, ready to go. We'll just go ahead and cut the strip where we can. And that's right here at these little copper strips, right like that. And then we can just go ahead and select how many lights we want on the strip, desolder this connection right here, solder our own wires on. And if we use the battery pack, great. If we don't, then we have maybe a 3 volt that might work. So that is the plan. I'm going to use these and hope for the best. I don't think I can put any on the bottom part of the saucer because it just doesn't fit, but we can on the top part. And that's what we want to go ahead and focus on. Now I also picked up these 3mm LEDs and I'm kind of thinking I might want to use one of those for the internal area, but I do have this 5mm as well. It actually probably takes up a bit more room than I want it to take up, but I'm going to go ahead and try it out. If it doesn't work or if it's just not enough room in there, I can go ahead and desolder that and then install a 3mm and go with that. I also thought about adding in some of the 3mm along the perimeter here, but I don't think that's very necessary because if those LED strips work like I planned them to, that should take care of all of our lighting needs. So let's go ahead and jump into our first time lapse. We have a lot of soldering to do. We have to go ahead and get the wires attached, get the ribbon cable cut and hooked up, get any sort of wire extensions. We're going to do a lot of soldering today, guys. So let's go ahead and dive in there, get some ribbon cable, make this happen. Let's go. And we are back. I have been working here and there. I've made a decision. The 5mm LED, even though it does work, does not give us enough room in there to go ahead and cram everything we need inside the saucer. So I made an executive decision. We're going to pull the 5mm. Still works, so I'm not too concerned about that. And we're going to go ahead and switch it out with a 3mm LED. Just solder that up just like I did with the other one. We've got a 470 ohm resistor. Seems to be what the LED calculator tells me to use. So we've got that set. We need to go ahead and just solder up some wires and move on from there. So that's what we're going to do with that. We're going to replace the 5mm with a 3mm. So that should work out well. I also want to go ahead and try to color code all of the wires so that I know what I'm doing when I go ahead and start soldering in the base. The red and brown, they're going to be for the impulse engines and the nacelles. We also have green and blue, which are going to be for the deflector dish and the bridge lighting. And we're going to have purple and gray, which are going to be for the saucer and the secondary hull. We can mark off positive and negative on my little sheet of paper. That way we don't miswire something. Now for the 3mm LED, I'm going to go ahead and try to trim it down as much as I can. I want something a bit more compact, and the 3mm will work really well right here in the bridge module. So if I can go ahead and shorten the wires just a little bit, like I mentioned, I'm using a 470 ohm resistor on the positive leg, and I'm going to go ahead and just solder up some of my ribbon cable there and make sure everything works. I like to test my LEDs before I go ahead and install them, just to make sure they actually do turn on. Now to go ahead and secure the 3mm LED for the bridge module, I'm going to go ahead and use a little bit of hot glue. Take this LED, we'll just press it down into the hot glue, and then once this is cured, we can go ahead and start stringing up the rest of the wires. Like I mentioned, I want to go ahead and make sure to keep the blue and the green wires together for the deflector dish and for the bridge module. I also want to keep the red and the brown wires together for the impulse and nacelles, and the purple and gray for the internal lighting. So that's the plan, guys. Let's go ahead and jump into our last time lapse. We're going to go ahead and push on and finish off the wiring. We're going to get all the connections made inside the saucer so that they're nice and neat and tidy. We'll make sure to grab some shrink tubing, make sure that all of our connections are nice and protected. We're going to go ahead and tin up some wires and just get those attached. I should also mention here, guys, that I have actually put aside my older, cheaper soldering iron and gone out and gotten myself a nice soldering station. So that comes with an adjustable temperature, comes with a really nice soldering iron that has different replaceable tips, and the tip is really sharp. So I'm able to kind of get into the little nooks and crannies of different things. It also has a little heating element too that I can use to shrink up the shrink tubing. So let's go ahead and get on to our last time lapse here. And then once it's all good, we're going to go ahead and close the saucer and glue everything together. So let's go ahead and get in there, guys. Let's see what we can do. Let's have some fun and finish up the lighting. All right, everybody, so we are back, and as you can see, the Shenzhou is in one piece. I've got the lights on right now. I have to clean up some of the areas here. I've got some residual super glue, but as you can see, the lights do work, and it looks pretty cool. Some of the plastic is pretty thin, and I had to sand it down to get the lights to fit, but more or less, we are on the right track. I don't really see the edge lighting as much as I would like on the top of the saucer, but the underside of the saucer and the secondary hole, they're very bright and they look awesome. So let me go ahead and zoom in here for you and get you a close up, and you can see that the lights are on. You do get a little bit of color shine through top of the saucer, but most of it comes from the bottom of the saucer. The bridge is a very bright light. I might have to go ahead and kind of dull that down just a little bit with some flat, but otherwise the impulse engines are on, the warp nacelles are on, and even the deflector dish. Now I'm kind of curious about what it looks like in the dark. Let's go ahead and turn off the lights there and see how it looks in a very low light situation. So here we go. The lights are off. Let's go ahead and flip this on, and there we go. All right, not too shabby. All the lights are working. The red is kind of overpowering right now, but I think that will improve once I mask it off and I airbrush some primer over it. We also have some light bleed here pushing through on the bottom of the saucer. I honestly thought I'd get everything together, wedge it all inside, and then something would pop or something would happen, and then we would just completely lose half the lights. And so far, that hasn't happened, and I'm really happy about that. What a relief. But I think that is good for today, guys. We've got the deflector dish lights on, all the impulse engine lights are on, the warp nacelles, the internal saucer section, as well as the secondary hull. We are looking awesome, and I'm very excited to say that, well, we can move on next episode with cleanup and eventually priming and painting. You'll notice too that I'm actually just using my 3-volt battery pack, and it is powering all the lights. So I think I can actually make this a pretty simple base and then just put one battery pack up inside with a single switch to go ahead and throw all the lights on and off. With the amount of wires I shoved into here, I'm surprised it even works, to be honest, but it does. Now, speaking of the base, I do plan on using this hollowed out brass tubing right here that fits right up inside that opening. Once we kind of figure out what we want to do with that, we'll go ahead and cut this down to size, feed the wires through, and then go ahead and hot glue that or super glue that up inside the Shenzhou and then down into the base. So this is looking awesome, guys. I'm really excited and happy that this has turned out as it has so far. Until our next episode, you guys know the drill. Go out there, get yourself some bench time, have some fun, build something cool, and we'll see you back here on episode number 7 for the U.S.S. Shenzhou here on Sci-Fi Wednesdays. Thanks so much, everybody. Take care, and we'll see you soon.